I am delighted to next introduce John Powell. John is a professor of law at the Moritz College of Law at Ohio State. He is also the executive director of the Kiron Institute, which studies race and poverty in the U.S., and is a most remarkable thinker, as I think you will find very shortly. Are we ready to go with him? Great. John.
So let me see if I have better luck with the technology. Okay, there it is. So first of all, I want to thank Drummond and Tides and the people at Kerwin. But mainly I want to thank you for all the work you do and really trying to make a world a place that we can appropriately call home and all can call home. So I'm going to take a slightly different tack. I'm going to talk about opportunity, structure, and systems. And what's informing my talk is Iris Young, who died recently, who basically says the more complex society becomes, the more our relationships are mediated through institutions and structures. Most of you probably don't hang out with people in Africa and China every day, and yet they profoundly affect our lives. 20% of the mortgages in Cleveland are held by the Chinese. And so we live in systems, we live in structures. And as I was preparing my talk, Drummond asked me to do three things. He asked me to try to keep it short, to try to make it insightful, and to try to make it personal. So I'll try to do all three. So, okay. Personal. Yes, that's me. In my biography, I grew up. Moving right along. And my parents were sharecroppers in the South, living in a society where money is still very scarcely used. And they decided to leave the South in search of opportunity, which is one of the major reasons that people move, in search of opportunity, including the people who were trying to leave Egypt in search of opportunity. And they moved north, seeking opportunity. And eventually they bought a house. This is the house that I grew up in. Today I would say they bought a house in an area of declining or low opportunity. So to some extent, their efforts to move to opportunity, to get a better life for their nine children, and I'm 6 of 9, was somewhat frustrated. This is my neighborhood. And this is the neighborhood as it looks today. And you see a lot of green space, a lot of open space. Those are not parks. They are vacant lots. They are abandoned buildings. They are opportunity gone. And where did they go? To the suburbs. They left the core of the city. Some of them left the region, but most of them didn't leave the region. They left the core of the city, creating sprawling metropolitan areas with highways cluttered with cars, creating pollution in the air, and taking with them much of the opportunity that my parents and many others were trying to gain access to. What they left behind were vacant lots and vacant houses. This is my neighborhood. This is where I grew up. And today, I wouldn't have said this when I was 18 or 17 in that picture, I say I grew up in an area that was of low and declining opportunity. Many of you know the place I grew up as Detroit, where opportunity was deconstructed, where it was stripped from the city, stripped from the core, and sent sprawling throughout the region and throughout the country. So I've been talking about opportunity. So what is opportunity? First of all, we all live in neighborhoods called opportunity structures. And in those structures, there are houses, there are schools, there are supermarkets, there are jobs, there's a political participation or not. And those things interact, and they create a sense of opportunity or isolation from opportunity. So it's the interaction of all of these things together that creates today what I would call the opportunity structure. And if you think of people who have high opportunity, they're standing or going up an up escalator. Escalators going toward opportunity. If they just stand there, they will get to opportunity. They will get to a decent life. Some of them will fall off, so not everyone on the escalator will get to high opportunity. And then others who live in low opportunity have to run up a down escalator. It doesn't mean they won't get there, but it means they have to exert much more energy in order for it to happen. And opportunity in this country is deeply, profoundly racialized. When you look at areas in the country where there's stripped opportunity, where whole communities are isolated from opportunities, those are much more likely to be Black and Latino communities. Now you might say, well, that has nothing to do with race. This is about poverty, isn't it? And even if that was true, that would be bad enough, but it's not just about poverty. If you're Black living in urban areas in the United States and poor, you're 10 times more likely to live in low opportunity areas than if you're white and poor. And it's not much better if you're Latino or even if you're in the rural areas. So if you had to choose, knowing nothing else, just look at these communities, which community would you choose? You would choose an area for you, your family, your kids, as close to opportunity as possible. And what's the difference? So in Detroit today, 25% graduation rate for students going to school in Detroit. Less than 20% if you're African American male. I live in a place now where my stepdaughter graduated from high school. 100% of her classmates graduated from high school and 100% went to college. And it's an area that's relatively safe. In fact, one of the main things the police do is to arrest kids who are trying to sneak in this community to steal a good education and send them back to a school system like the one in Detroit. So now I say I live in an area that's high opportunity, where if people stand on the escalator and do nothing else, they're probably going to be okay. And if I showed you an aerial view of this area, you'd see a lot of spaces, and they wouldn't be vacant lots, they'd be parks. Opportunity matters. Where we live matters, and how we structure this opportunity matters. And again, it's deeply racialized. And the interaction of this opportunity is another way of talking about systems. So one of the things we've done at the Curwen Institute is to go around the country. We've done the whole state of Massachusetts, we've done the whole state of Connecticut, and map out opportunity so people can see what they already know, where people can see where's high opportunity, where's low opportunity, and then where do people of color live. And it won't surprise you that people of color live most often in low opportunity. What we do with this is try to get policymakers to think differently about opportunity, to think differently about how we structure our regional area. So let's take a trip to the past and talk about redlining. Redlining was a way in which, in many ways, the modern version of opportunity got structured. The federal government created an expansive middle class, but at the same time, it redlined certain areas, saying there was not going to be money available, there was not going to be resources available, and those areas were literally redlined. And the redline areas was done largely based on race. This is 1935. That system was never effectively disestablished. What it did, though, it changed the way people bought housing. Before this, to buy a house, you go to your bank or your savings and loan, they'd make you a loan. The federal government created a secondary market, which says the bank will loan you the money, and then we will actually repay the bank so it could loan again. It's a secondary market. The thing that's interesting about this is that the secondary market made it possible for most Americans, if you're white, to become homeowners. It also nationalized redlining, and it moved from a two-party system to a three-party system. Now, this system worked relatively well until the 1990s.